Okay, ready to go? All right. How's it going, guys? My name is Charles. You probably know me better as Cdew. I am from New Jersey, over here in the United States of America. Um, Playing games as a kid growing up, I kind of just played like some Nintendo. I had a PlayStation 1, so I played some Mario. Get made fun of for how I say that. I played some Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, some Madden, and with all those games, I was the kid that always like played the tutorials and stuff, and I wanted to make sure I always understood like how to be the best and stuff. Because when you played against your friends, you always wanted to win, and my friends kind of always like gave me grief for that. They're like, "Why do you try so hard?" I just always kind of had this competitive like mindset when I played video games. I'm not really sure why, but it kind of just grew with me even now to where I am today. But one of my friends got me into WoW. He's actually the best man at my wedding coming up. Not because he got me into WoW, but we've known each other for a very long time. His family had 3 computers, and when I was younger, I actually wasn't allowed to play computer games. My dad specifically said computers were not meant for video games. So every time I see him, I like to give him a little grief with what I do, make sure he understands that they are meant for video games. Um, but yeah, my friend had 3 computers, so his dad played, his sister played, I played, and every time I went over there, we would stay up all night. We'd play WoW for as long as we could, and eventually, my mom ended up getting me a computer, and I started playing WoW, and I was addicted. I think I didn't go outside for an entire summer, which when you're a kid, that was a pretty big deal. Literally, just friends would be like, "Yo, you want to do something?" And I'd be like, "Nope, playing WoW." Um, Much like today, so. What got me into the competitive scene, it was a complete accident. I didn't really know I wanted to be a competitive WoW player, but I played Season 1 and Season 2, and I got Challenger. And then in Season 3, I was in a raiding guild, if any of you guys are familiar with the BC seasons. And the PvP weapons had a requirement of 1850. So that was my incentive to start playing, I guess I wouldn't really say competitive PvP, but start playing PvP to I guess a competitive state or take it more seriously, because the weapon that you got from the arenas at 1850 was actually really good for raiding. So my guild leader, who was actually a rank 1 warrior at the time, or maybe he was a gladiator warrior, I'm not sure. He was pretty good. He started teaching me the ropes, and he taught me things about like using rank 1 spells for mana efficiency. And having someone to teach you stuff like that when there wasn't really guides and Twitch and stuff like that, it was mind blowing. I was like, wow, that makes a lot of sense. You don't want to do damage with the Earth Shock. You just want to interrupt someone. And then I started learning about focus macros and stuff, and I ended up getting my weapon, and I really enjoyed learning. It was something that I really miss in WoW. So when you play those new classes, and you try and learn all this stuff about them, it's probably one of the most fun things in WoW for me. So it was pretty cool. And it was a complete accident, me getting into the competitive scene back when the tournament realms existed. If you guys don't know what they were just an online realm that you purchased from Blizzard, AT or Tournament Realm. I'm not really sure what it was called. Arena Pass, maybe that sounds more familiar. You had pre-made characters where you can choose and pick any gear. You can make any class, any race, put it as any spec, and I actually would play it with my friends. And we would just do some random stuff like Shadow Priest, Warlock, stuff like that, because back then it was still really, really difficult to level. So creating a character at max level with full gear was always like really fun. It was only $20. Queues were always really nice on there, so it was just a lot of fun in general. And someone from the Horde side of my server recognized my name, and he contacted me, because back then you couldn't actually play with people from the opposing faction. There weren't faction changes yet. He contacted me on the tournament realm. And he was like, "Hey man, I recognize who you are. You played a high rating on my server and stuff." He's like, "Would you want to try this comp?" And I said, "Sure." And it was Holy Play. It was a comp that he invented. He was the priest. It was Disc Priest, Ret Pally, Resto Shaman, double healer, Ret Pally, and we ended up getting top 8 on a tournament realm, which qualified us for a regional event. And I didn't really know. I thought the tournament was on the tournament realm. So when we got 8th place, I was like, "Oh, I guess I won some money." And then next thing you know, I'm 18 years old, flying out to Germany for my first tournament, where the priest actually didn't end up showing up. And I never really thought anything of it. It was kind of like, oh, this was a cool experience. Shame my priest didn't show up, whatever, went home. But going to that tournament, I actually met like a lot of pro players there who started to like recognize my name more since they met me. and the main person being Azale, who actually got me on my first pro team. I didn't really know I wanted to like become a pro, but when you get offered to, join a professional team for video games, and you're gonna win money and you're gonna make money and stuff, it was really really cool. So I was really excited about that, and we went over to our first tournament in California where we placed fourth. It was Anaheim, California. It's actually the same convention center that that BlizzCon's at. So now that I think about it, I've always lost at that convention center, even outside of BlizzCon, which feels bad, man. But we got fourth place, and then it was our third tournament that we actually won, the IEM Global Finals, first Resto Shaman to ever win a tournament. What's up? And I mean, just all around, it was pretty awesome. I remember walking back from the bathroom to the main stage at that tournament, and Zale and I kind of look at each other, and he's like, you know what? Let's just win this whole thing. We were in the semifinals, and we still had a long road to go. We had to go through Button Bashers, and we had to go through Hydra's team, and I remember that happening, and it was pretty crazy. So my favorite expansion in PvP. This is a question I try and avoid on my stream all the time, because everyone's always going to talk about the old expansions like they're the best, but everyone kind of forgets that there was a lot of stuff wrong in the old expansions too. I have to say, in terms of what's the word I'm looking for? In terms of like my comps being overpowered, I would say Kata was my favorite PvP expansion. I felt like Lock Shaman anything, you can win. So my class was very overpowered. I like that expansion. In terms of the expansion I had the most fun in PvP, I would say Burning Crusade, because it was where I really met like a lot of my favorite players that I played with that I'm still friends with today. And I just really miss and enjoyed the experience of gathering all that knowledge and meeting people that had very similar interests, and kind of growing with them as players and becoming friends. And in terms of when I think the community was at like an all-time high, was when faction changes came out and Wrath of the Lich King, and every single player that was anyone or wanted to be someone went over to BlackRock as Horde, and it didn't matter what time you queued at. There was 100 different comps and teams queuing. It was incredible as a PvPer. Queue at 4 a.m., 10 teams queuing. Queue at 7 a.m., 20 teams queuing. It didn't matter. There was just teams and players everywhere who wanted to play, always queuing up. So that was a lot of fun for me. My favorite class, obviously, is probably going to be Resto Shaman. It was kind of a mistake that I ended up playing Resto Shaman. I played Alliance back in vanilla, so I had a warrior, I had a rogue, and when Blizzard announced that Resto Shamans were going to be provided to Alliance, I was like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna make one of those, because you couldn't make them before as Horde. So, and you couldn't have Horde and Alliance on the same server, and to re-roll was insane to think of back in the day. You'd start over with no gold, no friends, no one could help you, so you didn't really want to do that. So I ended up making a shaman, and my original name was Tenderloin, brought to me by my friend, who wanted me to name it Child Tenderloin, but it didn't fit, so Tenderloin had to do. And I wanted to play Enhancement, and I remember queuing twos with the person who got me into WoW. We played Enhancement Shaman BM Hunter, and we just lost every single game. And he's like, can't you heal? And I was like, oh yeah, I have a Resto spec. So I went to the auction house and bought some Resto gear. And I guess that's where the legend was born. 0-4. And if you guys are interested in watching more of me, you can find me on twitch.tv/Cdewx. My Twitter is at Dewland, I believe. And my YouTube is TenderloinX1. Thanks for watching.